Ay, Benny, no saben la que se está metiendo,
There are violent movies, and then there's El Infierno.
What the dog doing?
A movie to have been said to be one of the most brutal and violent cartel movies ever, to which I have reviewed the first half of the movie, click here if you want to watch, but now on to the second part of the story. Turns out, little Diablito was hanging out with some of the associates of the rival Don Pancho cartel in the middle of this brutal ass cartel war that has been going on for the past year, which I'm pretty sure is a very good idea. Benny goes to retrieve him and straighten things out with his nephew, and after that it is business as usual. Benny is trying to get to know El Sargento, but he ain't with it.
Negativo, güey.
And El Sargento even views Benny as a foreigner for living in America before getting his ass deported.
Don't come back.
This day takes a turn for the absolute worst. ¿Dónde está? Because the rival Don Pancho's crew was tipped off about Cochilocos and the main cartel leader's one and only son's secret location. So Benny and El Sargento haul ass to their ambush location. And once getting there, they find Cochilocos shot but alive, although a worse fate is in for the cartel leader's son. He's gay.
¿Quién es ahora el puto cabrón?
I mean dead. Well, he's gay and dead. And this is the reason why his private location was so secretive and vulnerable to this ambush.
Al parecer al hijo de mi patrón le gustaban tiernitos.
So now everyone's kind of like, damn, this is our asses. And yeah. Because when they take Junior's body to Don Jose and his wife, the two are just blaming everyone for getting their son got. In the middle of this, the corrupt mayor and sheriff show up, trying to console them and not catch any blame, which does not work.
Doña Mari, pero no me puede echar la culpa de eso. El problema es que su marido tiene muchos enemigos en la región.
And this ain't the last of the blame too, because Don Pancho also verbally blasts Cochilocos for failing to protect his one and only son. And this feeling of uneasiness continues for Cochilocos, since at Junior's funeral, the Panchos are inconsolable.
That bastard, I'll kill him! I'll rip him apart with my bare hands!
And this basically feels like that one Chalino Sanchez moment for Gochi. And if you don't know what that Chalino Sanchez note moment is, it's basically an indicator that something bad is going to happen and it is inevitable. So yeah, it sucks to be Gochi. Predicting this dark moment, Gochi starts telling Benny to watch out for his family since he might be gone soon. When all of a sudden, Gochi gets alerted to an emergency at his house and his favorite son is gone. And there's this mysterious but taunting note on the door to who's responsible. But I mean, come on, we all know who it is, and Gochi does too. So now, Gochi asks Benny one last time to take care of his family as he goes to take out Don Pancho, and he leaves Benny with one conclusion to this life.
Te lo dije, no. Esta vida y no chingaderas es el infierno, mi Benny.
And yeah, just like that, Gochi is being buried alongside his young boy. Now, it is the calm before the storm, and Don Pancho is propping up the remaining men he has left, and offering these fat-ass bounties and rewards for the head of every single one of the Pancho's cartel men and anyone solely responsible for their sons perishing. They want their heads. And they don't mean that figuratively.
De los asesinos de mi hijo no lo dice figuradamente. Queremos las cabezas.
They also want the biggest bounty to go to whoever tipped off the rival cartel to Junior's location, leading to his passing, because Don Jose personally wants to give that one individual a fate worse than death. And as we've seen from anything in this movie, that sounds impossible, but it isn't. Don Pancho was also trying to BS Benny about Cochilocos and his son's passing, but they all kind of know Don Pancho was behind it. So now they better not mess up either. But you know what else is really messed up? If someone steals your online identity. But luckily for you, this video is sponsored by Aura. As we'll see in El Infierno, you'll know how fast things can go south. One bad move and everything, your money, your security, and your identity is gone. But in real life, crime isn't always loud. Sometimes it's silent, like when Bank of America had a data breach and didn't tell anyone for months. And they're not the only ones. Citigroup, JP Morgan, and others all have been hit. On average, it takes 277 days to report a breach. Your data could be exposed right now and you wouldn't even know it. Hello? Hi, I'd like to know why there's this random ass wire transfer from my bank account to this abandoned warehouse in Mexico.
No English.
That's why I use today's sponsor, Aura. Aura scans the deep dark web for my personal info and alerts me immediately if it's found. They also monitor my bank and credit to stop fraud before it even starts and offer up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. Don't wait until it's too late. Try Aura free for 14 days when you click my special link or scan the QR code above. So try Aura and see if your data is already out there, because in the digital world, there are no second chances. And now it is truly wartime, and El Sargento, along with this other new guy, are basically telling Benny and the original cartel members to stay out of the way and let them do the heavy lifting. And what follows is, hermano, a really dark turn of events. Like, they basically just shoot first and ask questions later, regardless if the people kidnapped are guilty or innocent. El Sargento is literally on that God of War 1 young Kratos bloodlust.
Burn this village! Burn it to the ground!
They literally spent all this time violently picking off every one of Don Pancho's cartel members. And, orale, it's a lot, man, for such a short time. So much so that even Benny, who's been in this life of dark crime for quite a while now, feels uneasy about these two, not men's, but monsters' work methods. Them Oaxaca boys are built different. They get to the final remaining members of Don Pancho's crew and extract all of the information that they need because of pain tolerances and whatnot. The info given was that this random kid, nicknamed El Diablito, snitched. So Benny acts dumb like he doesn't know who that is, even though it's his nephew. And after that, they even extract Don Pancho's location and head over there to finish this devastating cartel war. Right after that, they tease and humiliate Don Pancho and just blast his ass.
Le trajimos unos regalitos de parte de su carnal.
So now this war is over, but Benny still has to go home with the devastating truth that his nephew and adopted son is responsible for Don Jose Jr.'s death that kicked off even more of this destruction and chaos. But why? Why did El Diablito snitch?
¡Estás pendejo! Tú y solo tú fuiste el rajón que fue a contarle a los panchos dónde encontrar al JR.
El Diablito relays some chisme on how some of those old Don Pancho associates he was kicking it with was there at the time of his dad's passing, and knows that none other than Don Jose and Junior both annihilated his dad and Benny's younger brother. But why, you might ask? Why did Diablo's own cartel boss and cartel boss's son end him? That still remains a mystery, so Benny goes to this other cartel associate's place to find out the truth once and for all.
He f***ed me with a toothbrush!
It's unveiled that El Diablo was sleeping with the boss's wife, and the boss and his son found out, so they cut off his huevos and blasted him to high hell. All the while, Cochilocos and the rest of the crew were there witnessing it all, and keeping this from Benny the whole time he was there, part of their crew. Also, this man also knows that Benny's nephew is El Diablito, so Benny knocks him out to give him some time to smuggle young Diablito out of Mexico and have someone else sneak him across the border. This gets interrupted. But after this, Benny finally gets El Diablito to a bus stop. And after this final goodbye, Benny gets a phone call from Lupita, and some of Don Jose's men come looking around for Benny and El Diablito. He tells her to leave, and he feels like he has nowhere else to go with everything closing in on him, so he goes to a police station to go snitch to that one Fed who wanted one of the cartel members to flip on Don Jose earlier. Benny spills all the chisme about all the criminal and moral wrongdoings of the Don Jose and the Reyes cartel, but there's just one problem, and that is that this Fed is a snitch for Don Jose Reyes.
Señor Reyes, buenas noches. Oiga, es que tengo algo que creo que le puede interesar.
Now knowing this, that corrupt Fed takes dramatic measures on Benny
¿Dónde está el Diablito, cabrón?
to give up Little Diablito's location, but Don Jose wants Benny alive and for himself, leaving these two other detectives to take Benny to Don Jose. But Benny is able to persuade these two men to let him go, since Benny will let them get his hidden stash, and it's a lot more than what that other Fed and Don Pancho was putting up for him. They find the loot and Benny's secret stash, but he tries to pull a sneaky one on them, which doesn't go too well for Benny. And such is narco life and the end of the movie. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. But if come on, fool. Benny gets up from his grave, shot and wounded, but still hurries to his padrino's workshop in order to get a ride back into town and escape with his Lupita, but she's gone. Days pass and Benny continues to grieve when finally it is time for his final goodbye to the rest of his remaining family, which is just his mom and his padrino. And now Benny rides off into the sunset. Time passes and we are at a festival as Don Jose appears as the new mayor of San Miguel with El Sargento as his new head of security, and it's a big ass festival. But another force of vengeance starts to appear from the crowd. The man, the myth, the deportee, El Benny appears with an AK-47, unloading it in complete vengeance and payback, annihilating them all with one mag. And hold up, this is the only part of the movie, if I must admit, that kind of took me out. If you go watch the whole 2-minute clip on your own, Benny deadass annihilates all of these people with one clip by hip firing. Want to know if there's any way, we can actually test this, kind of like how Mythbusters did that whole test with the Breaking Bad ambush and the M60. I mean, Benny is hip firing too, and it's I don't know what the distance is, 30 meters or yards? So I wonder if anyone would be able to pull this off. And here's another kind of wrench in that logic. I also tried to count how many shots were on screen, but it was just too freaking hard and confusing, so I did that, trying to count the gunshots in the audio, and from what I got, it was 82 rounds, and that doesn't look like a drum magazine. And just let's be conservative and say that Benny had 28 rounds. Would you even be able to blast that many people accurately with 28 rounds? Hypothetically, I might ask. This is the only part that kind of took me out of the movie. Still a great ass movie, of course, but yeah, this is just one of those things where everything was so good and you just kind of huh? But back to the story. After this, Benny's life comes to the only conclusion that it could have came to, which is death. How'd he die? I don't know, but it makes sense in this narco cycle of violence. But it was all worth it, since his noble sacrifice grants his younger brother's son and Benny's dear nephew a chance at a better life and away from all of this violence. Just kidding, the violent cartel cycle continues, and that's why I gotta give it a 10 out of 10 orales. And this movie is so well written, so brilliant. There's a bunch of aspects that I didn't even talk about, like the brilliant dark humor used. This is one of those films that comes in once in a while that actually makes you feel something. And for me personally, it made me feel horrendous and disgusted. But yeah, you guys definitely gotta check it out. Thank you to Over for sponsoring this video, and thank you to Sick Ass Foos. Until next time, later.